All right, I'm sure you guys have heard Kanoni is going to allow this dog bite expert, Dr. Crosby, to testify regarding the wounds on John O'Keefe's arm. This is what
8. This is the decision and order, Justice Beverly Canoni, on the defendant's motion to exclude the testimony of the Commonwealth's witness, James Crosby, MS, PhD. After hearing and review of the pleadings, the court finds that the Commonwealth has satisfied the foundational requirements of Daubert-Lanigan.
District of Colorado, case entitled American Canine Foundation versus City of Aurora, Colorado. And this was, where's the date? This was in 2009, day 2 of testimony of James Crosby. Okay. All right. The court. Call your next witness. Good morning, Your Honor. Plaintiff calls Mr. Jim Crosby. James Crosby, plaintiff's witness sworn. Please be seated. Thank you. Please state your full name. My name is James Crosby. Good morning. Could you please tell the court what your current job is? I'm the Director of Animal Control for Bay County, Florida. And how long have you done that? I've been the director there since February of this year. Oh. And did you do something different prior to that? Oh, yes. Could you please tell me what that is? Yes, I'll go through it. I was a police officer with the Department of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, Jacksonville, Florida, for 23 years. During that time, I served as a patrol officer, a sergeant, and a lieutenant. At the time I retired, I was a watch commander in charge of an area of town that had a population of about 160,000. I had 4 sergeants and 40 police officers under my direct command. On my retirement from the police department, I went into working as a professional dog trainer. I became certified as a certified pet dog trainer under the Council for Certification of Pet Dog Trainers. What the fuck? Went into professional training, both obedience, field dogs for competitions, including hunt tests and field trials, show handling on a limited basis, not very good at it. Also training and working with behaviorally challenged and difficult animals. Over time, I became much more involved in working with aggressive and dangerous animals. I've consulted with veterinarians because he's not a veterinarian, if you didn't know. He consults with them though. Shit, I lost my place. I've consulted with veterinarians and animal control agencies around the country and in Canada on aggressive and dangerous dog issues. I've given educational seminars and taught regarding aggressive and dangerous dogs and fatal dog attacks in places such as the National Animal Control Association's National Conference, the Ban of Urban Animal Strategies Conference in Banff, Canada, and many other venues, both for law enforcement, animal control, and civilians. I've trained a number of dogs, probably over 2,000 animals. I went to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina and worked with approximately 1,200 animals in the shelter which I was assigned, developing a new protocol for the handling and safe handling and treatment of apparently aggressive and dangerous dogs, some of which were simply stressed by the trauma of having to literally fight for their lives in the streets of New Orleans post-storm. Oh my God, on the street. I have a bachelor's in science degree from Charter Oak State College, with a concentration in psychology. I have attended Jacksonville University, Duke University, and the University of North Florida in preparation for that. You went to those three colleges in preparation to get your bachelor's degree from Charter Oak State College? What are you talking about? I have conducted on-scene investigations in 10 different fatal attacks on humans across the United States, more than any other investigator has ever done. Wow, ever. Those involve 23 animals that I've handled that have killed human beings. after the attack and have evaluated those animals behaviorally after the attacks. The court. Are those all dogs who have attacked? These are all dogs who have attacked and killed human beings. I've conducted more of those evaluations than any investigator has ever done. I have a number of memberships and certifications, including a member of the executive board of the National Animal Interest Alliance Trust of Florida. I'm a consultant for the National Animal Interest Alliance and their directive for companion animal issues, consultant with the National Canine Research Council, a member of the National Animal Control Association, a member of the Florida Animal Control Association, a member of the American College of Forensic Examiners, a member of the International Institute for Applied Companion Animal Behavior, a member of the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants. I am a past president of the Curly Coated Retriever Club, oh my God, of America. I'm a certified animal control officer in Florida. I'm a certified euthanasia technician. I recently attended certification training in clandestine graves investigations at the University of Florida's Veterinary Forensic Division of their vet school. Also been certified in Bart Mike investigation comparison through the University of Florida Veterinary Forensic programs. Time out. Where I have to look that one up. I think that's the second time I've heard that. We definitely will look that up after we get through this. The court. What are you reading from? I have a written resume. Is that an exhibit in this case? This resume? I'm asking. If it's not, I don't believe. I didn't see it on the list. I'm just saying, if you want to, just in the interest of time, if you want to mark that and move to admit as an exhibit at some point before you rest, at least I'll have that. Because there is no way I can write all of that down. I hear what you're saying, but it appears he's reading his resume. So the freaking judge has to be like, yo, what is going on? I kind of had to read it myself to keep track. The court. That's fine. I'm not criticizing you're doing that. I'm just saying we'd save time if you'd mark that. Miss Chan. Your Honor, we could mark it as an exhibit that is not listed. It would be a new exhibit number, I guess 13. All right, why don't we mark it? I'll have Mr. Keach mark it, and perhaps he can make a copy at the break. Is there any objection to admitting exhibit 13? City has no objection. All right, so we'll admit exhibit 13, which is his resume. That way we can get into the substance of his testimony. Where is Bay County, Florida? Bay County, the largest town, is Panama City. We're located on the panhandle between Pensacola and Tallahassee. Okay, let's continue. Thank you. Mr. Crosby, have you ever been accepted as an expert in any other legal proceeding? Yes, ma'am. I've been accepted as an expert both for court testimony and for written testimony in the states of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Michigan, Washington State, Texas, and I think I'm forgetting a couple, but I believe it's a total of 13 states. Okay, thank you. Mr. Crosby, in regard to the specific case that we're here for today, have you reviewed the ordinance that was promulgated by the city of Aurora, the city council of which I believe it consists of 4? Well, let's see. It's right here. It's called Article 1, General Provision. May I ask the witness to look at this to see if he's reviewed it? The court. Let's do this. The ordinance, if it's the same ordinance, is Exhibit C on defendant's list. Okay. Is there any objection to admitting Exhibit C? I just want to move some things along here. We do too, Judge. Miss Spade, I'm not sure who that is. Your Honor, it was our understanding it had been stipulated to. Okay, Exhibit C is received. Now the ordinance is in exhibits. All right. Mr. Crosby, if you would look there at Ordinance C, I'm going to ask you questions. Exhibit C, have you found it? Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right. See on my copy says a bill, blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right. I shouldn't say blah, blah. Do you see what my copy says, page 1 at the top of it says a bill? Yes. Okay. And then we have the first 4 paragraphs where it says, and I quote, finds that pit bulls tend to be stronger than other dogs, and has a few sentences there. And the first 2 sentences on page 1, I'd like you to look, and I will state this is all in one sentence. So I'm going to read straight from here. The City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado, finds that pit bulls tend to be stronger than other dogs. I would ask you at this time, do you have any belief as to this sentence that the pit bulls tend to be stronger than other dogs? The court. Hold on. Before he gives opinions, even though you use that word, I want you to designate him as an expert in some area so I can understand the scope of this expert testimony. So what? Designate him in some area or areas consistent with his background, experience, and training. He doesn't have one. It's an orphan. Miss Chan. Okay, thank you. Bye, Miss Chan. Mr. Crosby, do you have any direct experience with a type of dog known commonly, generically as, quote, pit bulls, as I just stated from that page? Yes, ma'am. Can you give me an example so we could get an idea of the scope? Within probably better than 2,000 dogs that I've trained during my career as a professional trainer, I have dealt with several hundred of the dogs commonly lumped under the umbrella, including those specifically listed by the city of Aurora as pit bulls. In that time, I have observed most of the breeds, at least many of the breeds listed specifically in this ordinance. During my investigations of fatal dog attacks, I've also encountered a number of dogs identified by their owners and other means as pit bulls and part of the pit bull complex of dogs. Further, my evaluations of potentially dangerous and aggressive dogs, both before my employment with Bay County and during my employment with Bay County, I've encountered a number of those animals. And while serving as the Director of Animal Control at the Animal Control Division of Bay County, I have had occasion to evaluate, handle, and deal with large number of those animals. Okay, and have you personally trained any? I've personally trained them. I've personally evaluated them both. Not only limited to, but including animals that have bitten people and have attacked people and killed them. Okay, is there any other training in your background, including being at the shelter where you directly work with the dogs, known, quote, in a term of, quote, pit bull, which would encompass probably quite a few types of dogs? Some of my clients, as far as behavior problems and obedience problems, also possess dogs of that breed complex. So, yes, I believe you stated you've evaluated dogs? Yes, okay. I've evaluated dogs both for courts, for animal controls, and for individuals, and also for municipal agencies, such as the Jacksonville Housing Authority in Jacksonville, Florida, as to whether dogs were or were not vicious, dangerous, or potentially so. And in some of the other cases where you testified, were any of those involving the subject matter today dangerous dogs or a dog that may be known as a pit bull? Yes. Thank you. Mr. Crosby, yesterday one of the animal control officers testified that the American Pit Bull Terrier, or quote pit bull, is responsible for the majority of severe injuries in the city of Aurora. And I believe that you have reviewed dog bite incidents from Aurora. Yes, I was provided 459 dog bite reports as part of the preparation for this case. Went through those and evaluated them based on a bite continuum tool. So here, supposedly, I'm guessing is his methodology for what he's going to be determining, or what he used to determine that John O'Keefe's arm is not a dog bite too. It's called a bite continuum tool. Originally established by Dr. Ian Dunbar of California, Dr. Ian Dunbar, who is a PhD veterinarian in California. With his permission, I have tweaked that slightly and have taught that evaluation form across the country and in Canada. God damn it, I don't know why I can't. Okay, so Dr. Ian Dunbar apparently came up with this method, but he's tweaked it slightly and teaches it all around the world. Mm-hmm. I've evaluated the 459 bite reports that I was given as part of preparation for this court and found that, here comes the judge. Hold on. I know there are no objections, but she only asked if you had evaluated the documents. Like, bro, shut the fuck up. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I did. And I'm going to insist, Miss Chan, before you ask him opinion questions, I want you to simply tell me through request for designation the areas in which or for which you're seeking to elicit opinions. If you don't do that, I won't let him answer any questions about opinions. I want to understand the scope of the areas where you seek to have him give opinions. Mr. Crosby, in your tenure working as a director of the animal control, you said that's what you do? That is my job right now. Do you have cause to work with animals being impounded and dog bite reports? Yes. And would that encompass any kind of dog? That would encompass any animals brought in. Okay. During the course of which during the course of which I evaluate the behavior, observe behavior, and evaluate the dangerous or not dangerous or adoptable behaviors of those animals. Okay, and would that include the quote generic term of pit bull dog? Would you have cause to take such a dog into the shelter? Yes, we do. And as part of my duties at the shelter, I do evaluate the behavior of pit bull and other type animals that come in. Are you also doing that with another person or just you? My staff participates in the process, but I have the final say so. And do you help doing training? Currently, I'm not active training. However, I have 10 years of active training behind me. Okay, and so when dogs come in, you have to evaluate them. How long does that take? Depends on the dog and how much time we have. Okay, is there a procedure that you use? At my shelter, we do not have a specific temperament test that we use, no. Okay, and the reason for that is I don't have the staff. Oh, okay. Do you have a procedure that Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So do you have a procedure that you use though for temperament testing? I have procedures that I personally use, having been trained in such, which include the American Temperament Testing Society evaluation, the Canine Good Citizen evaluations taught by the American Kennel Club. I have been trained in Sue Sterner's Save a Pet method. I'm also familiar with the Safer Dog Evaluation Temperament Testing. Bro. Okay, I believe the Safer Dog method. Could you briefly say what that is? Other lawyer. Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. How is that relevant to any opinions he may give in this case? Your Honor, that particular program they speak of is a tool that's used in most shelters to rescue dogs because they have to try to take out the marginal dogs from the non-marginal, and because this ordinance saying these dogs. Okay. Not everybody has that ability. Oh my God. Sorry, I said not. Knowing how to use that particular testing method is something that shows they have to have the ability to do that. Not everyone has that ability. All right, objection overruled. Go ahead. I am not certified. He's not even certified at it. I'm not certified in the safer method. I have been run through it. I ran through it once. Sorry, I added that part. But he did say, I have been run through it. I can't give you the process off the top of my head, but it's something that if I was going to do a safer test, I would refer to the reference material that is out there for it. Okay. So when you have the dogs come in, then apparently it sounds like your shelter is rather small, but yeah, you get a lot of dogs. We will have taken in almost 10,000 dogs by the dogs and cats by the end of this year. Okay, and your evaluation, I guess less than 10,000 dogs because you said you took other animals. You probably have helped evaluate quite a few dogs. In the course of my tenure there and in the course of my other duties, yes, I evaluate quite a few dogs. And in other cases where I've been certified as an expert, what other cases? What other cases have you been certified as an expert? I haven't found one. Not that it's not out there. It's just, why wouldn't you put the case site? It has been in the fields of animal behavior, dangerous animals, dangerous dogs, particularly, and in the area of dangerous dog attacks and dog aggression. Okay. As to dog aggression and dangerous attacks, I believe you stated at the beginning on your CV that you had, I believe you said you were one of the persons in the United States that had done the most, and you said you had done the most. I believe you said it was examinations on dogs. To the best of my knowledge, and I've talked to most of the other experts and so-called experts, I have individually on scene investigated more fatal dog attacks and handled more animals who have killed humans after such attack than has ever been done before. Dude, this fucking guy is like, oh my God. And when you said more than anyone else, you mean hands-on touching a dead dog? Is that what you mean? The ones I do hands-on evaluation of the dogs, it means I go and physically handle and evaluate hands-on the live dog that has killed a person. Okay. Before it's euthanized. Do you do autopsies on the dogs? I am not trained to do necropsies. Necropsies? I don't know that word. On dogs, no. I'm not a veterinarian. Okay. I have, however, harvested tissue samples and brain matter, and harvested other samples for study at the University of Florida, of which I am part through the McKnight Brain Institute. The Department of Psychiatry, University of Florida. Okay, I think what I'm trying to establish is that when you said you were the one who had done the most, and you went into it very briefly exactly what you did in regard to dangerous dogs and fatal attacks, I assume that the fatal attack is involving what we would call a dangerous dog. Am I correct in saying it was a dangerous dog that allegedly, since, is this the case you're working on? Am I understanding that? We need to find a dangerous dog. When I use the word dangerous dog, I mean a dog which has been found by a competent authority under the statute or ordinances of that jurisdiction as being legally a dangerous dog. Okay, that is what constitutes, when I'm discussing a dangerous dog, what is dangerous. Very few, in fact, I don't recall any of the dogs that I evaluated or dealt with that have killed people or previously judged or adjudicated by a competent authority as being dangerous animals. Is that unusual? Actually, what it seems to be is that the dangerous dog ordinances and legislation, as they apply to specific individual dogs based on their behavior, works. What? And that once those animals are individually labeled through process as dangerous animals, they become less a threat to the public in general. What? You're talking about generically speaking? I'm talking about adjudged dangerous animals who have been through the legal process. At that point, it seems that the process of addressing those individual animals works quite well. Oh, he makes no fucking sense. Oh my god. Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand it. You mean like if there was a dog, let's just say it was a lab, and it did certain things, and according to the code, it became, quote, dangerous in the dog code for that state. Then you're saying the law that would say, okay, now this dog has to have these restrictions? Yes. Based on what the dog did? Yes. Okay. And those laws in my direct observation seem to work well. Either the people do not keep that animal or the animal is very aggressively managed and maintained. The penalties for violating those laws range from felonies to misdemeanors in most states. Okay. Now, seeing as you're the director of the shelter, and apparently you have, sounds like you have a lot of hands-on because you said you didn't have a direct helper to do something there. If you have impounded dogs, you said of impounded pit bull in your shelter, have you any direct experience impounding dogs that are pit bull type? Okay. Okay. My back. Shoot. Sorry, man. That would have expressed something such as they were more destructive because they were impounded. Across a class of dogs, I cannot say that any particular breed is more destructive than any other breed. Okay, how about if one the quote generic pit bull dogs come in? Have you seen any other different types of behavior the dog would express? Objection to the form, Your Honor. I'm getting confused. Sustained. I don't understand, Miss Chan. What are you doing? I don't understand what you're doing. This witness, you spent a lot of time telling me what his qualifications were. All I asked you to do was to designate the areas where you seek to elicit opinions. And I think it would be helpful to elicit the opinions because I don't know what he's saying. Maybe you don't want me to know. We don't know what he's saying either. Do you understand what I mean when I say designate him as an expert? Dang, Judge. Your Honor, I thought that Mr. Crosby, even though he was designated, I was trying to elicit things that were specific to the ordinance. I was concentrating on these 3 paragraphs. The court. Let me explain. In this court, before a witness gives opinions, and of course, if we had a jury trial, I wouldn't be saying this. I just need to know the areas where you're designating him as someone to give opinions based on background, experience, and training under Rule 702, so that if he gives opinions outside that scope, I have the ability to rule on objection if made. I'm simply asking you to designate the areas where you believe, based on what the court has already heard, he's qualified under Rule 702 to give opinions. So you have to do that through questions. And so the simple thing I'm asking you to do is to designate him as someone who can give opinions in the areas of, and then you have to fill in the blank. Now, I sort of have a sense of what he's saying already. He's already said he has experience in animal behavior, dangerous animals, dangerous dogs, dangerous dog attacks, and dog aggression, plus the things he does as an animal control officer. But I haven't heard you request that he be designated to give opinions in those areas and any other areas. So I want you to do that next. And then after you do that, You need to then ask some questions that will elicit from him what his opinions are. Miss Chan, I would need a copy of the CV. Since he didn't submit it, I don't have that here. The court, well, his CV is not the issue. You heard what he said. Let's do this. I'm going to move this along. This is frustrating. Holy shit. Go ahead. Take a seat. I'm not going to ask the questions. You need to ask your own questions. Take his CV if you need to, which is Exhibit 13. But I've already heard what he said. I'm not asking you to regurgitate what I already heard. I'm asking you to simply ask a threshold procedural question that will help me understand the subject matter or categories or areas where you seek to get opinions from him. No more, no less than that. It could be some of the areas I already designated a moment ago because I heard that with my own ears. But it's not my role to do the direct examination or cross-examination of any witness, although I tend to ask questions in trials to the court so I can understand what a witness is saying. Okay, Mr. Crosby, with your qualifications that you stated to the court and with your past experience and what you've given to the court, including working as a director at the animal care shelter and having trained dogs, having done the attack bite, I think you said, examinations, and having done more than any other person with the hands-on that you said at the beginning, I think it would be fair to say that plaintiff would hold out Mr. Crosby as having expert experience and firsthand experience in probably dog bite injuries, fatal attack studies, canine behavior, in particular. Objection, Your Honor. Is counsel testifying or is a witness being asked a question? The court, I'm not sure what she's doing. Oh my God. I haven't read through this. This is so good. Your Honor, I'm just trying to state I tried to narrow it down to 4. We're talking about dangerous dogs, and I believe that to kind of answer your question, I have been previously accepted as an expert in the areas of dog behavior, aggressive and dangerous dogs, fatal dog attacks, fatal dog evaluation, bite comparison, and also in the duties and normal procedures of an animal control director. What, when, where, where? That's what I want to know. When, where, bro. Your Honor, plaintiffs submit that Mr. Crosby then can be considered as an expert on the areas that he testified to prior, including the 4 that I just stated, and all of the items that he listed in the beginning, which there were so many, but particularly in the area of dangerous dogs, fatal attacks, dog bite injuries, and also working animal control. He's got over 10 years, I believe he said. All right, so you're seeking to have him designated in the areas of dog behavior, aggressive and dangerous dogs, fatal dog attacks, fatal dog evaluation, bite comparison, and the duties and procedures that he's familiar with in his capacity as an animal control director. Is that your designation? Yes, Your Honor. All right. Any objection? No objection. Why the hell didn't you object to that? The witness then may give opinions in those areas. Whew. This is a lot more than I was expecting. And I still have so much to look up because I think this guy's full of shit. All right, where were we? Earlier, Mr. Crosby asked you the question that you had reviewed dog bite incident reports from the city of Aurora, and you stated you had. Yes, I reviewed 459 separate reports of dog bites provided. Thank you. Now my question is, after having reviewed all the reports, is it your opinion, or do you have an opinion that the pit bull terrier, that's a generic term, I have to say this because it consists of objection, Your Honor, leading. Well, let me hear the entire question. I have to just say, I always qualify pit bull as a generic term because it also encompasses 4 separate breeds, so I don't have to name the 4 breeds. That's part of the ordinance. The court. Miss Chan, let me ask your question. You started to ask a question, then you interrupted by defining what pit bull meant. Let's just have you ask a question. So if there's an objection, I could hear the question. Okay. Mr. Crosby, you reviewed the Aurora dog bite incident reports, and my question was as to the pit bull terrier, and that's when I insert the generic type, meaning it encompasses all the other 4 breeds without naming them all out. Oh my God. Do you believe that they are responsible for the severe injuries Do you believe that they are responsible for the severe injuries in the reports that you saw? Not significantly, no. The court. I'm not interested in his beliefs. I'm interested in his opinions. Let's hear his opinions. Okay. What would be your opinion of what you saw regarding the my professional opinion, based on the review of the 459 dog bites I was given, comparing the bite severity based upon a quantifiable scale. What quantifiable scale, bro? Oh my god. Comparing the bite severity based upon a quantifiable scale that I use to evaluate dog bites. Oh, that scale. I do not see any significant difference between the class of breeds known as Pit Bull Terriers and many of the other breeds expressed in those reports. Pit Bull, the generic group of breeds known as Pit Bull Terriers, which I must assume are the breeds contained in the Aurora statute because that's a label used by rural animal control, comprise 1.9% of level 5 or serious dog bites reported in that group of dog bites reported by Aurora. This same percentage is Chow, so only slightly greater the number by the Labrador Retriever. Okay. As to the impounding of the dog, did you look at each piece of paper where they had a list of breed in there? Yes, I reviewed each one of those physical reports. Okay. And looked at the description. I looked at the description of the bite. Looked at the description. So you read words and looked at the description of the bite and of the listed and described breed as according to Aurora Animal Control. Okay. And would it be your opinion then that the quote, Pit Bull Terrier dogs would inflict more damage when attacking? I would have to answer that based on my observations of pit bull attacks, not on the basis of the reports by Animal Control and Aurora. Your personal experience? In my personal observation and contact and investigations of far more attacks than just these, it is my opinion that Pit Bull Terriers or the Pit Bull group of dogs do not inflict more serious injury than any other breed of dog of similar size. Mr. Crosby, have you reviewed what's listed as plaintiff's exhibit number 7, Bates 3039 canine, which is the canine genetics written academic paper by Dr. Sturr? Yes, I've looked over that. Objection, Your Honor, that was not disclosed in Mr. Crosby's report. I believe Rule 26A to B requires that any data or information considered by the witness be disclosed. And this report is not disclosed in his report, sir. Respond, Ms. Chan, because obviously I haven't seen his expert report. He probably didn't write one. So I don't know what it says or doesn't say. This particular exhibit is actually, it's a part of learned treatise from Dr. Sturr. And so I think it would, I don't even have to admit it, actually, for purposes of him testifying about it. I'm not going to ask him to testify about the report. Just ask him how he read it. Well, I'm confused here. Re-ask your question so I can understand what you're asking him regarding this exhibit. I'll sustain the objection, but I'll let Ms. Chan rephrase it. Thank you. Mr. Crosby, I asked you on exhibit number 7, which is plaintiff's exhibit page number... A written academic paper by Dr. Sturr. I asked, have you read that? Yes, I've looked over it. I've looked over it. I glanced at it. Oh my God. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a question regarding dogs, not just the American Pit Bull Terrier, but did you say you looked at the Aurora Ordinance and you noticed there were other breeds listed? Yes, I don't have it in front of me, but there is 10 breeds, I believe, that they mention. It's Exhibit C. I'm sorry? Yes, this does list several breeds of dogs. Okay. Do you know what those other dog breeds look like? Yes, I do. I have not personally encountered a Tosa fighting dog or a Cane de Macelio or the Sicilian Branchiero. However, I have either seen or physically come in contact with the other breeds. Okay, so you've either seen them or physically like bumped into one that you didn't see? I've either seen or physically come in contact with the other breeds. Oh my God. Okay, and then I'd like to ask you on exhibit number 8, which is talking about the mechanical advantage in a pit bull dog by Jesse McBridges III that was submitted by Aurora. Have you ever read or looked at that particular study? Yes, I've looked over that after I was given it when I got here. Like just now. Oh my God. No. Again, Your Honor, I would raise the same objection. This was not disclosed in the expert's report. So again, we're invoking Rule 26A to B. Well, the question was simply, has he read it? And he said he read it. But I've not heard him say he's basing any of his opinions on this. So I don't, oh wait, this is the court. So I don't know that the objection really relates to what he's saying regarding Exhibit 8. So objection is overruled. So that hold on. So the court will accept as a proper question and answer the fact that he's reviewed this, whatever that may mean. Okay. Mr. Crosby, have you ever done any personal work in the realm of your dog experience where you actually worked on canine skulls, including the part of the jaw? I have dissected canine skulls, and including the jaw, and also been taught how to take dental impressions and make dental comparisons by a human forensics odontologist. Who? The same guy you're talking about before? What? Why doesn't anyone say who? What? Like, what? Just take this. By a human forensic odontologist. The scientific words you use in the beginning, scientific words. The scientific words you use in the beginning part of the sentence, could you explain that? I didn't understand what you meant. Yes, in the course of the research, I've cut off dogs' heads and cut them apart and looked at how they were put together. So it'd be the head, including the jaw. Okay, when you do that, do you have any cause to have answering a question regarding the amount of pressure the dog uses on the jaw biting? I can't answer the amount of pressure based on what I observed. No? Do you ever do that? Have you ever been asked to do it? I have never conducted a pressure study on those jaws, no. Have you ever done any kind of studies on the jaws? I have looked at the jaws and physically examined those jaws I have taken part. Oh my God. Be it from a pit bull or from a Rottweiler or similar sized dogs, and to my eye, I have observed no significant difference. No special mechanisms that would identify a pit bull jaw from the other jaws. Oh my fucking God. Oh. Okay. Okay. Do you have any opinion as to whether the pit bull terrier, quote, generic pit bull terrier, has a stronger bite? Based on the jaws I have observed and the bites I have seen, it's my opinion that a pit bull bite, given the same intensity and intent of the dog during the attack, is approximately the same as any dog of approximately the same size. Bite intensity or bite damage, bite severity, if you want to use that term, in my opinion, depends on three things. The intensity of the bite, which is related to the intent of the animal. So now he knows the fucking intent of the animal. Okay. Whew. Is this a warning or is this a predatory action? And the frequency of the bites, the number of bites. 400 dachshund bites are going to do far more damage than one Great Dane bite. 400 who's ever gotten bit 400 times by a fucking wiener dog? Oh my God. And that's in regard to the which element? In regard to what I observed as the physical injuries and damage to the human body caused by those bites. Is it possible to look, in your opinion, you said you were viewing fatalities, which would be dogs killing people. Is that correct? That's what dog fatalities, yes. Yes, okay. When you review what the dog did to the person, let's say we had a smaller dog, and you've seen smaller dogs that have killed. Human beings have been killed by dogs ranging from dachshund, I have to say that word, dachshunds, I don't know, dachshunds, and Pomeranians. Humans have been killed by a Pomeranian. Humans have been killed by dogs ranging from dachshunds and Pomeranians to 140-pound Presa Canarios and wolf hybrids. Okay, when you take an autopsy report, do you get to see pictures of the damage when you take an autopsy report? He's taking Yes, I do. Okay, when you look at the picture, and if it didn't tell you what dog did the damage, can you tell by looking that it might be a pit bull? No. Why is that? Because it could be any dog with a similar size with a similar size jaw. If you have a jaw that's 4 inches long and 3 inches deep, it's pretty much going to make the same size of hole no matter what is attached to it. When you say hole, are you referring to canine incisors? I'm talking about the damage to the human body, not just the incisors or the canines or the molars, but simply the physical damage done. If you hit something with a 40-pound sledgehammer versus a 16-pound roofing hammer, the 40-pound sledgehammer is going to make a bigger hole in what you hit. Okay, so then you're saying then that when you look at the picture of damage done, even if it's really severe and you can't conclude automatically what dog had did it, no. In fact, no. Ah! No. In fact, in training from the human forensic odontologist dog bites, the court has recognized, at least in Florida, if not in other states, that dog bites are exclusionary evidence, not identifying evidence. A dog bite does not identify. I cannot look at a dog bite and tell you what breed did it. I can only use a dog bite and the pattern of bite to exclude potential dogs to a reasonable medical certainty. Oh, you're a fucking medical doctor now? You can't do that to medical certainty when you're not a fucking medical doctor. Let the court ask a couple of questions here. I'm trying to understand what you're saying and not saying. If you go to Exhibit C, if you look at the whereases in the Aurora Ordinance, the first one says, whereas the City Council of the City of Aurora, Colorado finds that pit bulls tend to be stronger than other dogs, often give no warning signals before attacking, and are less willing than other dogs to retreat from an attack. Now, I want to ask you some questions about this so I can understand what you're saying or not saying about this. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not pit bulls tend to be stronger than other dogs? Oh my god. Okay. This is gonna be fucking hilarious. Yes, I do have an opinion. What's your opinion? Oh, wait, sorry, this is the court. What's your opinion? That opinion is no, sir, they do not. Why not? They are as strong or as not strong as they are trained to be. If I have a 140-pound Rottweiler that has been trained to pull carts in a weight pulling competition and has been exercised as an athlete versus a 50-pound pit bull that is a couch potato, there is going to be a lot more strength on that Rottweiler side than on that pit bull's. They're not magically endowed with super strength. Just like people of similar sizes and similar backgrounds and similar training, there is no difference. Oh my god. If it's a 50-pound pit bull and a 50-pound standard poodle and a 50-pound Rottweiler, I don't see any significant difference in the overall strength. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. One dog can be trained to be stronger than the other. The court. Well, but let's assume all of them are trained the same way. You used 3 dogs. You said a Rottweiler, a poodle, and a pit bull. Suppose they're all trained the same way, and the training requires them to be in good shape, and they engage in training that exercises their jaws and their biting mechanisms so that they are more acute than otherwise. Would pit bulls tend to be stronger than the other 2 dogs if all of them are trained the same way? Not in the cases I've observed, no sir. If all 3 of those dogs were trained by, as some of the irresponsible people will do, hanging from an object to make them hang on as long as possible, and were then reinforced behaviorally for hanging on for extended time, all 3 of them would have the potential for hanging on just as long as the other 2 and biting just as hard. Are you aware of any? What is your opinion as to whether or not there's evidence that exists anywhere that would support the findings in this ordinance that pit bulls tend to be stronger than other dogs? I believe my opinion is that's an urban myth with no scientific basis at all. Oh my god. Oh my god. The court. The next thing is pit bulls often give no warning signals before attacking. What is your opinion as to the accuracy of that portion of my opinion to the accuracy of that based on my studies and also studies into canine body language and behavior is no, pit bulls do give submissive licks like any other dog. They will give appeasement signals, such as yawning. They will growl. Oh my god, they will growl. Their ears, even though they may be severely cropped by irresponsible human intervention, still move forward and backward in various attacks attitudes. Their tails, even if cropped, may be up or down or tucked between their legs. Their body posture, they may be facing you frontally, or they may be facing you at an angle. Each of those behaviors that are readable by other dogs and humans are present in the grouping of dogs that we call pit bulls just as much as in other dogs. You just have to look for it to see it and know what you're looking at. Dogs understand each other quite well. People to dogs sometimes don't pay attention. Well, the next prong of this first whereas talks about pit bulls are less willing than other dogs to retreat from an attack. What is your opinion about the accuracy of that statement? My opinion is that's an inaccurate statement. If it was true, police agencies would strictly use pit bulls to hold suspects. Oh my God. That's, oh my God. In my experience as a police officer and working, although not as a canine handler, working with the canine units, those dogs are trained and reinforced to trap and hold a suspect for an extended period of time until the handler gets there. The dogs of choice are not pit bulls because pit bulls are not any more likely to hold on for a long period of time than any other dog, especially if the dogs have been reinforced for those behaviors or not reinforced for those behaviors. All right, hold on a second. Now, the next whereas is whereas the city council finds pit bull attacks more often than other types of dogs result in multiple bites and attacks of greater severity. So, the city council for the city of Aurora makes a finding here in its preamble that pit bull attacks more often than other types of dogs result in multiple bites and attacks of greater severity. What is your opinion on the accuracy of that statement? My opinion on the accuracy of that statement is it is inaccurate. Shocker. Both based on my personal observation and on the numbers and reports provided by the city of Aurora. In the city of Aurora, if that was true, then Labrador bites would not outnumber pit bull bites. So you're basing your testimony here on the bite incident reports you reviewed? Oh yeah, it couldn't have anything to do with the number of pit bulls compared to the number of other dogs either. Like, what an idiot. Anyway, so you're basing your testimony here on the bite incident reports you reviewed? On both the bite incident reports I reviewed, the bite incident reports that I have observed in other locations, and the behavior of animals I've observed in other locations. Pit bulls are not the number one biter in my jurisdiction either. All right, next, whereas, well, no, I don't need to ask you about that one. It's done. All right, go ahead, Miss Jan. You can ask some questions. Thank you. Let's see. I think, Mr. Crosby, your last question was with regard whether they were treated from an attack. Is that correct? In my opinion, pit bulls are no less likely to retreat from attack than any other dog. Okay, and your observation of shelters, your opinion from all your time spent with dogs, would the generic term for pit bulls be more likely to actually bite people more times? No, ma'am. And why is that? Dog bites revolve around the behavioral intent, what the dog wants to achieve. Your typical dog bite, which makes up the most huge percentage, no matter where you look, is what I call an engage and release. It is a single bite of very, very limited power that serves as the dog's behavioral warning to whatever it's frightened, scared, bothered, anger, whatever the dog, to basically back up and get out of my face. That is the largest number of bites across every breed out there. That is how dogs communicate. When body language communication breaks down, the other side isn't listening, that's the way they raise their voices. That is the most common bite, and pit bulls are no more likely, in my observation, to proceed beyond that than any other kind of dog. In reviewing the Aurora, I'm going to go back to the reports of which you stated you read over 400 of them. Did you find that there were any discrepancies as to the purported dog bite severities alleged by Aurora and these dogs that you talked about? When you looked at these reports, were you of the opinion that they did, in fact, then do more severe bites overall looking at those dog bite reports? My review of Aurora's claims that they do more damages versus my overview of the bite reports I have, the claims are not supported by their own data. Why is that? The numbers just simply don't agree. They're claiming something that the data provided to me in those dog bites don't support. Okay, so we're looking at a number of factors it could be. When you got your dog bite reports that you looked at from Aurora, how far back, what years did you look at? The reports they gave that I was provided as part of this case dated from within 2003 through 2004 and into 2005. Okay, and in the 2003 report, you have that in? Do you have that? If you don't, I do have one provided. I do have a folder that is the bites that I was provided. Okay. How many bites? How many bites did you count? Objection, Your Honor. If you could possibly look at the exhibit so that we could figure out if they are, in fact, the same items. Sure. I'll let him do that. Counsel, do you have a list of how many bites are so I don't have to waste the court's time counting pages? Oh my God, he wants the fucking lawyer to answer the question. Do you have a list of how many bites are so I don't have to waste the court's time counting pages are in Exhibit 6 listing the 2003 bites? So I know how many I counted that I was given. We're looking for it. I have that. What I was asking the city of Aurora how many bites they have showed they have provided so that we're talking about the same number, unless you want me to count the pages here. Your Honor, I guess I'm confused. I was under the impression this witness had the 2003 reports with him, and I was just asking him to cross-correlate them with Exhibit 6. The court. Why don't counsel come up and look at what he has versus what you understand to be in Exhibit 6? Approach the witness. Don't ask him any questions, but look at what he has versus what's in Exhibit 6. I can answer your question. I was provided 99 bite reports for 2003. Your written claims show 213. The numbers just simply don't agree. Oh my God. Okay. That's why I was asking if another set of bite reports differ from what I had seen has been provided by Aurora. But we'll go with that. We'll go with what I've got here. That's fine. I'm sorry, Your Honor. So that was for the year 2003. Could you please repeat the numbers for me for 2003? What you have? I was provided 99 human bites report. One animal victim that occurred in 2003. What? And you counted it was, that's what I counted. Okay. The paper I was provided apparently from the city of Aurora was that they claimed 213 bites occurred in 2003, which I find no verification of. At this time, Mr. Crosby, I have to ask you, have you read Plaintiff's Exhibit number 12, the handwritten dog bite tally done by Rita Grable with affidavit by Miss Conway of the Aurora? Yes, I have. When you looked at it, just look at page 3. I looked at page 3. It's a handwritten piece of paper with a bunch of hash marks next to what appears to be dog breed names with no further explanation noted. And on the front and the back, depending on how you received it, I have that. Did you read the affidavit? Yep. In particular, did you read, well, there's 4 delineated numbers, blah, blah, blah. My opinion is that based on my experience with the proper professional standards and controls in an animal control shelter, this document is completely unacceptable and would not, in my shelter, we would not allow it. Hash marks on a piece of paper is not how you account for the disposition of other people's legal property, which dogs are in all states, I believe. Does this affidavit mention anything about dog bite reports? There is a notation on the bottom of the piece of paper that I don't know if it was added contemporaneously with the rest or not. This is 2003 GBI, whatever that would indicate. What about on the affidavit? Number 3. It seems to indicate that they have computerized dog bite reports, but states that they seem to have somehow lost 5 months of bite cards. Except for 2003, where Aurora claimed 213 bites, you can only find 99. I only have records for 99, which, according to that deposition, seems to be missing almost half the year. Can this affidavit with this attached pieces of paper with the hash marks, like you tried to type it, slash, blah, 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 can this be the numbers that are missing we don't have reports for? I have no way to know what these numbers are. They're not specific enough. They're not described as far as breed, as far as the name of the owner of the dog, the date of the incident, the severity of the incident. There's just simply, this is not the way the business is done. When you say you read on there that they used a computer to enter data, do you use a computer at your shelter? Yes, we do. Do you have a specific program for that? Our entire shelter is run under what is called Chameleon software. It's probably the most common, as far as I know, the current state of the art in shelter management tools. There are several others out there, but Chameleon seems to be the most that I've encountered. If Chameleon was used widespread, do you think the cost? Do you know the cost of buying that program? My understanding is the current cost of Chameleon is somewhere in the neighborhood of over 10,000. Somewhere in the neighborhood of over 10,000. I do know that I pay approximately $4,000 a year for the license usage for Bay County Animal Control because I just wrote them a check for $3,800 and change. In your opinion, at your own shelter, your Chameleon software program, which you say you run, if it were to go down and you had no computer and you had no way to input, let's just say, dog bite reports, how soon would it be before you get that program back running? I would be immediately on the phone to technical support for Chameleon. We have had that happen once or twice. It's been up within a matter of hours or days. A matter of days? Oh, amazing. And during that time, we have maintained duplicate hard copies until such information could be put into Chameleon. We don't just leave holes in the record. Oh, yeah. Oh. So for the dog bite reports for 2003, then, would you say, in your opinion, after you looked at that, you read the affidavit? Objection, Your Honor, leading. Well, it seems to be leading, but I didn't hear the entire question. So sustain. Let's ask a non-leading question. In your opinion, if you were running a shelter and your computer system broke down, your software broke down, and you had no way to report bite data, you said you would probably let it go for a day. But would you get the system back up? In your opinion, would it be a good business decision to leave the computer not working for a year? Objection, Your Honor, again, leading, sustain. What was the longest amount of time you would leave your computer down? If my computer, which it had done, went down, we were working on getting it up as soon as humanly possible, whether it be hours or a matter of a couple of days. What's the reason for that? Because as a public agency, and as an agency that is tasked with keeping stray animals for a specific period of time until they legally become my property, I cannot allow gaps in the record keeping. Because, number one, I would not know when a specific animal came in, when, if it was mine, if I was ever authorized to euthanize it, if necessary, whether it was adoptable, what its temperament was, because all of those things are noted in Chameleon. Plus, under at least Florida law, I'm required to track and to clear with the health department any dog bites for the public safety reason of rabies prevention. Therefore, I have to also keep accurate hard copy data reports showing if a dog is bitten, or a cat, or a raccoon, or a squirrel has bitten someone. Oh my God. What the disposition of that animal was, if it was checked for rabies infection, if it was, what the outcome was, if it was quarantined, if it was quarantined at my shelter, or if it was allowed to be quarantined at home. There are a whole host of factors that legally have to be monitored on a case-by-case basis, especially in public safety and public health issues like dog and cat bites. Fucking cat bites? What the fuck? All right. Anyway. In your opinion for your shelter and how you keep data for the computer, and you said you would not let more than one day go by. When you looked at Aurora's 2003 dog bite reports because it appears to be a discrepancy, I believe you stated you counted 99 bites that had data. They have a bite report for it in that exhibit folder. And you said Aurora counted 213 bites, which apparently we don't have in that folder, about 112. We're missing 112 dog reports, so you couldn't look at it. Is that correct? If the figures provided on the spreadsheet formed by Aurora are accurate, there are approximately 114 pieces of paper. Individual bites that were not included in the material provided under discovery. So, in your opinion, by looking at that, Aurora's claiming 213 bites. Can you substantiate it? Based on the papers I was given, I could not. I could not substantiate those numbers at all. I will not eat green eggs and ham. And frankly, would have to throw them out. He would have to throw them out. Would you consider the reliability of a handwritten item that's ever put in a computer reliable? What? It's not reliable unless it's put into a computer? I would not consider a handwritten item that is not documented, stamped, no forms attached, no nothing more than a hash mark as being evidence of anything other than a hash mark. Would you find that the dog bite reports starting for the year 2003, for what you could see, would you consider that they were reliable as a whole overall? Based on the information I've provided, no. But yet you were still able to tell us that you found that restricted breeds only did 1.9%? Based on the information I was given, which I consider to be incomplete for that year. There were also problems with the information provided for 2004 and 2005, where their numbers that they publish are different from the numbers that I got when I did the review myself. And to go back to 2003, all I could evaluate were the dog bites, the bite reports placed in front of me. So I could only establish the 1.9% severe bites based on the credible or semi-credible information provided by those. Oh my God. Those written reports. Okay, thank you, Mr. Crosby. I think you testified earlier you'd be admitted as an expert. Okay, this is kind of. Okay, thank you, Mr. Crosby. I think you testified earlier you had been admitted as an expert in some states. And you named the states. Yes. Okay, and that you have a designation in dealing with fatal attacks and taking apart dogs and completing reports on those dogs, I think you mentioned? Yes. Now, with that background, in keeping in mind there are other types of logs available, is it your opinion that this type of ordinance, which zeroes in on, quote, the American Pit Bull Terrier type dogs and delineate other named breeds, which are several, some are 8 or 9, I can't pronounce the names, but I know you saw them listed earlier in the ordinance because you said you read that. Would it be your opinion that, objection, Your Honor, as to the form? I've gotten quite lost as to what she's asking. Well, if your objection is leading, sustained. The witness needs to testify, not counsel. Objection sustained. Let's ask a non-leading question. Mr. Crosby, after reading the Aurora Ordinance the way it was written and the dogs it named, do you believe in your own opinion this type of law would protect the public? No, there are better ways to do it. Specifically, in the individual dangerous dog laws that are scattered around the country. Florida has a very strong dangerous dog law that under Florida statute is prohibited from taking breed into consideration, establishing dangerous nature. Dangerous dog laws, especially the most effective ones, address the individual documental behavior of an individual dog, just like crimes are specific to humans. We cannot go, for instance, claiming that a group of humans, particular, always act a certain way. We only arrest people for the crimes they commit, not for what their racial or ethnic or other background might be. And your tenure as director for the shelter. Hold on, let me understand what you're saying. You're saying that breed specific, if I understand, Tell me what your opinion is in your own words about whether or not breed-specific laws or dangerous dog laws are better. Ugh. Your Honor, dangerous dog laws are much better. Why? Because they address the actions of a specific dog and what it's done and then punish it, just like in the human criminal justice system. We cannot say that we're going to arrest all left-handed people because they have a propensity to run with scissors. Holy fuck. What we do is we say, you broke this specific law, and this is your punishment. We should do the same. And it works in other places with the same animals. If you've got a dangerous dog, if you've got a dog that mauled a child, I don't quite frankly care whether it's a wolf or a chihuahua. That dog needs to be specifically regulated, and your actions with that dog need to be regulated, and you need to be held individually responsible for what that animal does. Breed bans don't place responsibility on anyone. It avoids the whole question of responsibility of the owners. It just makes it somebody else's problem. It puts it in somebody else's backyard. Instead of just shifting it, let's make the individual dog owner answer for what their dogs are doing or not doing. That works a heck of a lot better. You can't, legislative things don't work. Nobody has been shot in New York City in 100 years, has there? Just outlawing things like pit bulls or Rottweilers or scissors doesn't stop Rottweiler or pit bull or scissor crimes. Oh my God. You have to regulate what the humans do. And by doing that with a dangerous dog law, you establish that if your dog has been raised and whether it's got a screw loose or you've abused it or you've never trained it or whatever, if it does X, then you either have to do Y or put the dog down. You have to meet the standards. And after Y happens, your dog bites again, you go to jail. Court. Let me ask you this question. Are you aware of any literature in the public domain, even if you disagree with it, as to its rationale and its basis, which would support the enactment of breed-specific legislation such as the Aurora Ordinance? I have read no studies that I find to be sufficiently documented that indicate that breed-specific ordinances actually increase the public safety by one whit. For instance, Miami-Dade is one of the two cities, along with Hollywood, Florida, that passed a breed ban just before Florida enacted its non-BSL provisions. People are still bitten by pit bulls every day in Miami, and they're bitten by other dogs too. The number of dog bites in Miami-Dade has continued to rise since the implementation of the pit bull ban there. If I can use a human analogy, if you've got a bunch of drive-bys where the suspects are all driving low-rider Chevrolets, you don't ban Chevrolets. They just shift. The irresponsible people, even if they follow the ban, are just going to pick another breed of dog. They're going to treat them the same way, and you're going to have the same result. In Hollywood, Florida, as far as I know, the bites there continue to go up, despite the fact that they're not allowing pit bulls there. In Canada, there are pit bulls there. And yet, in Canada, almost all the fatal dog attacks in Canada are by sled dogs. Different people, different ownerships, different strategies, different way they treat their animals. If you go into certain areas, people are treating German Shepherds or Dobermans or Rottweilers poorly, and those animals wind up having behavioral issues. It has to do with, it increases public safety more by regulating the humans and what they do with whatever dog they have. People have been killed by falling into a nest of wiener dogs. Literally. People have been killed by falling into a nest of wiener dogs. Literally. It's not just a Gary Larson cartoon. If you've got people that are treating these dogs irresponsibly and acting irresponsibly, they're going to be just as much as a threat. It may take more of them, but they're still going to be a problem. Instead, address the individual dog. Oh my God. I have personally, since I've been in Bay County, declared a golden retriever, a Rottweiler, pit bull, and what was the other dog? A generalized mixed breed as dangerous animals based on their behavior, not on what kind they are. Oh, all right, let me do it differently. Suppose the city of Aurora, rather than the plaintiffs, had called you as an expert in this case, and you had to give your best opinion as to why the Aurora ordinance in question in this case is reasonable. What would you say in support of that ordinance? I'd have a tough time with it because what would you say? Why it's reasonable? Why it's reasonable from a public health and safety standpoint. The only way I would justify it as being reasonable would have to say that the politicians that passed it could be perceived as having done something, even if it was ineffective. That would be the positive of that. I would instead, and I have in other cities, recommended that instead of going down this path, They go for an aggressive, clear, dangerous dog statute. All right, Mr. Chan, back to Miss Chan, back to you. Thank you. In your experience, Mr. Crosby, with shelters and laws involving canines, you believe, and is it your opinion that the dangerous dog laws, what we call, quote, generic dogs over here, is not mentioned? When you say that you believe they work well, are you aware of a particular place that they have put this type of law and is working great? There are a number of places where it works quite well. Jacksonville, Florida has an aggressive dog law that I helped write. Multnomah County, Oregon has a dangerous dog law. There are places in Washington State, there are places all over the country where dangerous dog laws based on the model both produced by, for instance, the National Animal Interest Alliance, the type of models endorsed by the American Kennel Club, the type of model that's being presented by Best Friends Animal Society. All of these are good, solid models that can be applied and actually work. Do those type of generic dog laws work the best where animal control enforces them? In my observation and opinion, yes. Instead of trying to spend your day driving around deciding whether you're looking at the banned dog of the moment, you simply go to the cause. You investigate it. You look at the behavior of the dog. And then you make your recommendations as whether this individual dog is something we want to have on our streets. That's what improves public health, whether the individual dog is a threat. And if it is, it needs to be taken off the street because we have that responsibility as animal control officers to protect the public from animals. What is one thing that a shelter could do, in your opinion, to actually make those dogs more known to people? In Florida, if you have a dangerous dog, one of the things you have to do is your yard must be because you have a dangerous dog on that property. You have to have specific enclosures. The dog can't get out. If you have a dangerous dog and it's running at large, you go to jail. If you have a dangerous dog and you're going to take it out in your yard, it has to have a leash, has to be muzzled, and it has to be in the presence of not your 6-year-old nephew, but a responsible, competent adult. There are plenty of measures that are put in. One of the things we're at in my county that is in place in other places such as Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Parker, Springfield, and other places in Florida is a mandatory requirement for specificity liability insurance. If you have a dog that's been declared dangerous, you have to buy what is expensive insurance to make sure your dog's next victim isn't going to lose because you're an irresponsible owner. So this insurance, in your opinion, if they're required to get rid of a dangerous dog, that would tend to help the victim if they end up being a victim of the actual dangerous dog? It winds up helping the victim. It also winds up winnowing out those people who are willing to spend $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 a year to maintain a dangerous dog. It's expensive to keep a dangerous dog, and it should be. A dog that has fulfilled those requirements is a potential threat to the next person coming down the street. Those people should be held responsible, and that dog should be regulated strongly. One last question, Mr. Crosby. In your experience as a shelter director, have you ever seen any particular dogs destroy property in this shelter? We actually have dogs that tear up toys all the time. You give them toys? Yeah, we give them toys and blankets and things to sleep on. Try to enrich the shelter environment as much as possible. Try to make them adoptable because, after all, I don't want to kill one more dog than I have to. Do you give pit bulls toys? We give all of them toys. Do you put pit bulls in a kennel fencing like other dogs? The only differential containment we have is the dogs to improve their climbers. We recently had a German Shepherd that was. We put him in a kennel row that has a secure top so she couldn't get out and play with other dogs. Has it been your experience in your shelter, in your opinion, have you viewed any pit bull dogs that destroyed the fencing? In my shelter, I've not seen any damage caused by any of the dogs we have. In other shelters, in other situations, for instance, I own an AKC champion curly-coated retriever that, if he's mad at you, will chew his way through a chain-link fence. He's got no pit bull in him. In your opinion, Mr. Crosby, do all dogs have the... Well, this is probably a fact. Do all dogs have the same amount of teeth? I would have to check with a veterinarian to make sure. I believe so, but that's not within my training or education to know that exactly. Okay. I know that breed standards and the AKSA and UKSA, which I'm most familiar with, some of them do give a specific number of teeth that are required. So apparently there is some variation, even within breeds of individuals that do not meet the breed standard. It's like you or I might have a missing tooth or an extra tooth. You mentioned earlier, Mr. Crosby, that in doing the fatal attacks, I believe you said that a smaller dog versus a bigger dog, you named some factors that would have some kind of implication as to the damage done to a person. Oh my God, how long is this? All right, almost through. Yes. Okay, so in your opinion, if you had a shelter dog that came in as 15 pounds, let's just say he has teeth relative to his size. Whatever the number of teeth they have, let's just pretend it's 32. And that dog, damaged one of your shelter workers. Could that dog possibly do extreme damage to a person? I've seen extreme damage done by dogs, again, ranging from Presa Canarias at 140 pounds plus to Dachshunds and Pomeranians. Could you please tell the court, there may be people that don't know the sizes of the breeds you mentioned? Presa Canarias, one of the fatal attacks I'm aware of. The Presa Canaria that killed a woman in Coral Springs, Florida, was around 140 pounds. And Pomeranian that I worked with had bitten someone several times, was about 7.5 pounds. And the other one, I think you said Chihuahua. Chihuahua, what, 5 or 6 pounds? You know, if it's got teeth, it can bite. Last question for you, Mr. Crosby. In your statement earlier, I believe you testified that you have done the most on-hands reports of anybody in the country on fatalities of dogs against humans. Right. And is the number of people killed in the United States, keep it to the United States, is that a large number? Last year, in 2007, there were a total of 33 humans killed by dogs. That is out of a population that we, somewhere between 270 and 300 million. The year before, it was a few less than that. This year, and I haven't seen this morning's media reports or anything, but as of yesterday, there were 21, the 21st being the one that I just left up in Muncie, Indiana, before I came here. The number of people actually killed by canines is tiny in comparison to other causes of death. For instance, 120 people every year are killed by cows. 300 some odd people an average year die falling in bathtubs. And I don't think we're going to ban the bathtubs. In your fatal attack personal experience, can you recall if there was, in your opinion, one of the worst attacks you've ever seen? The worst attack I've seen involved a 10-year-old child that was partially consumed and killed on the spot, and then consumed by the dogs that attacked him. Oh my fucking God. Does consumed mean whatever? Eaten. There was massive amounts of tissue gone. He was eaten on the scene. What kind of dogs? 4 boxers and 2 generic Heinz 57 brown dogs. About half their size. How many dogs attacked the kid? Total 6. Where did this happen? Dillon, South Carolina. I was on scene. That one, that's the most gruesome one and the most egregious one I've seen. Were those dogs killed? Yes, except for the one that was stolen before I got there. Somebody broke into animal control and stole one of those dogs. Mr. Crosby, was there any fatal attack that you were aware of participated in investigating involving a small dog? There was one. I didn't go to the scene, but there was one last year that involved a dachshund. The first one of this year was a Jack Russell Terrier in Brooklyn, New York. I'm sorry, the dachshund was in Brooklyn. Jack Russell was in Kentucky, I believe. How much does a Jack Russell Terrier weigh? 8, 9, 10, 12 pounds. The movie My Dog Spot that was running around popular a few months back, a year back, that was a Jack Russell Terrier. Okay. I have nothing further, Your Honor. Cross-examination? Thank you, Your Honor. Oh, my God. Holy shit. We're going to finish. Oh, who was that? Sir, I believe you said you had retired as a police officer? Yes. But you also told us you were not in the K-9 unit. Is that correct? That's correct. I was never actually assigned to the K-9 unit. Thank you, sir. So your experience is primarily after your retirement? While I was still in the police department, I would go out on training days with the Jacksonville Police K-9 unit. I would talk to the trainers. I would observe what they were doing. I would help them from time to time. I was not actually assigned there, but when I had the time, I would spend some time with them and also participate with them in evaluating dogs with potential as detector dogs, both for drugs and bombs, and also evaluate animals as suitable for patrol dogs. But again, the majority of your experience that you've testified to today comes from the time frame after your retirement. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, and have you ever been to Aurora, Colorado? Actually, my former in-laws live in Broomfield, so I've probably driven through it, but wasn't aware of it at the time. So you were not aware of ever having been to Aurora, Colorado, correct? To the best of my knowledge, I've never come to visit, no. And have you ever spoken to any of Aurora animal care officers? No. Have you ever spoken to any Aurora City Council members? Nope. Have you investigated any fatal cases in Aurora, Colorado? During the time I've been doing this, there's not been a fatal case in Aurora that I'm aware of, so no. Have you ever spoken to any victims of dog attacks in Aurora, Colorado? In Aurora? No. So without ever talking to any of these people, you know better than anyone else what the rational basis is of a law, correct, sir? I know what the rational basis of the law is, based on those places that I've observed it. And I don't believe that Aurora, Colorado is Mars. I think it's part of the country. And pretty much like everywhere else. Now, sir, do you know if Aurora, Colorado has a dangerous dog law? Haven't asked them. If they don't, they should. Just never occurred to you to even ask? I was not asked to review their dangerous dog law. And so if you were told that Aurora does in fact have a dangerous dog law, would that surprise you? Wouldn't surprise me or not surprise me. Plenty of places do. The entire state of Indiana does not. And so, for a jurisdiction that has a dangerous dog law, in fact, those dangerous dog laws are not addressing citizen concern. Do you have a fallback position, sir, on how to keep citizenry safe? Try enforcing the laws you have. Citizen perception is not necessarily backed up by data. Citizens believe things all the time. Do you go with what people feel, or do you go with what the information says? Irony. Speaking of beliefs, you were asked by the judge if there are any reports or data that do support the opposite position to what you have. And as I understood your response, you said that there were no studies that you found sufficiently documented. Is that correct, sir? That's correct. I've not seen anything that seemed to be backed up by hard data. So there are studies that exist. Is that correct? I've not read any, no. You just said that they weren't backed up by hard data, so you must have read something, sir. There have been allegations that breed bans worked in various places that I've not seen any written, backed up hard data on. So I've not read any studies with hard data on them that state that this works. So basically, the things that you have read that support breed-specific legislation, you don't agree with. And so you don't do any further investigation on those. Is that correct, sir? Objection, I'm amended. Overruled. I have seen claims such as the city of Aurora's claim that a breed ban is necessary and somehow works. However, I've not seen any of those claims backed up by hard data. If you have such a study, I would like to see it. Now, you were given the dog bite reports from the city of Aurora, correct? Correct. And you noted that you were informed that there were 5 months of cards that were missing. Is that correct? Actually, the affidavit that was provided by the Aurora Animal Control Officer stated that there were 5 months of data missing. Other than that, I have no knowledge if there is or how much data is missing. I gotta change the chair. This is longer. I thought I was just going to do a little bit of it, but it's so good. I got to do it all. Okay. All right. Actually, the affidavit that was provided by the Aurora Animal Control Officer stated that there were 5 months. Other than that, I have no knowledge if there is or how much data is missing. And you have no reason to disbelieve that, do you? I have no reason to have an opinion either way. That's true. That's very true. Did you sit and match the cards up and see if there were 5 months that were missing? If they don't have the cards, seems like that's kind of hard to do. Oh my God. Well, you can see where there aren't cards for, say, March, April, and May, correct? If the stuff that's missing is sequential. So you didn't bother to put the dog bite cards in a stack by year and then match them up against the month? I didn't go day by day. No, ma'am, I did not. I took what I was provided, believing that to be the total of what Aurora had. The evidence, the statement that those things are missing came much later, and I only became aware of it yesterday. And do you know what was going on in 2003 at Aurora Animal Care? No idea. Never spoke to Animal Care to find out why those things might be missing. I was asked to review the documents I was given, not to investigate Aurora Animal Control. And I'm guessing you don't know what the records retention policies are regarding Aurora Animal Care. I do not know what Colorado requires. I know that Florida requires 75 years. But you don't know what Colorado law is? I'm not in Colorado. I don't work in Colorado. So if you heard that the retention period was 3 years and then people are expected to purge them, would that surprise you? Honestly, yes, even if the IRS tells you to keep 7 years of receipts. And do you know if Aurora Animal Care was going through a renovation in that time period? I don't know anything about Aurora Animal Care, even if they're certified. Now, you have been the director of the Dade County Shelter since February of this year, correct? I've never been in the Dade County Shelter. I'm in the Bay County, Florida. Bay County? And took over as director in February this year. That's correct. You know what preconceptions? I misheard you, sir. So Bay County. You've been there since February, correct? Correct. Have you ever had an occasion to move your entire animal care shelter out of the building you're currently in and move it physically to another building? No, ma'am. I've been fortunate that I've actually got a nice building that was built about 3 years ago. So you would have no idea what effect moving animal care from one building into a totally different building might have on, say, a computer system. Here in Aurora, no. I can tell you the records from Bay County Animal Control that predate the move to the shelter I'm in are in boxes at my shelter and can still be looked up. We did not put in the computer until 2006, and from the day the computer was started, all of our records are in place. You told us about your curly-coated retriever. Do you recall that? I did mention that he will chew his way through a chain-link fence, yes. And do you think that's a problem that should be addressed if he's doing that consistently, sir? If I catch him doing it, he is corrected, and he has stopped doing it because he's been repeatedly corrected. And it has a physical impact, right? Certainly. It makes me fix the fence, and it wears down his teeth. Ooh. And would you agree? And would you agree that if animal care shelter was having that kind of physical impact, that would be a cause of concern on a regular basis if that happened? Sure. All right. Try and replace whatever was being destroyed with something that wasn't quite as vulnerable. Have you done any fatal animal research in Colorado at all? Since I started this, I have not responded to the state of Colorado on a fatal dog attack. No. Did you respond to the attack in Elbert County? Was that the little boy's arm was taken off by the two chows? No, sir. That was a woman who was killed by 3 pit bulls when she went to go feed her horse. What date was that? I did not come out for it. I just don't know if it was before I started responding or not, because nobody would fucking call you for a damn thing. So basically, since you aren't familiar with the case, you didn't come out in view? No, I didn't come out. And you told us you found 1.9% of the serious dog bites in the Aurora dog bite cards were the same percentage as chows. Is that correct? That is correct. 9, what I term level 5, which is, you'll let me read it in, is multiple bites, 1 to 4 holes, 1 to 4 holes. That's what he's calling the injuries, holes, 1 to 4 holes from a single bite, 1 hole deeper than 1/2 the length of a canine tooth. Typically contact and punctures for more than the canine's only, black bruising, tears and or slashing wounds, dog clamped down or shook or slashed victims. Level 5, there were 9 level 5 bites, as best I could tell from your figures, and 9 pit bull bites at that level, same percentage of the total. However, that makes it 40% of the bites by chows were severe, as opposed to only 21% of the bites by pit bulls. And you only concerned yourself as far as looking at level 5 bites. Is that correct, sir? No, I looked at level 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 being fatalities, of which there are none documented time here in Aurora, Colorado. And so your base of complaint is that we should have outlawed chows too? No, my basic complaint was outlawing pit bulls was wasted time, effort, and money, didn't accomplish anything. It was based on flawed data. This despite the fact that you didn't speak to any of the city council people who passed this, correct? Based on the review of the data supports itself. And do you know if the city council only relied on dog bite reports? I don't know what the city council made the determination on. I didn't speak to them. Do you know how many city council people there are in Aurora? No. I believe you said that in your vitae you had looked at a number of fatal dog bites. Is that correct? That's correct. And in your vitae, 4 of those involve pit bull type dogs, don't they? Actually, I'd have to look back through each one. I don't remember exactly how many. I can tell you in just a few minutes because I can pull it up. But I have investigated fatals by pit bull type dogs, yes. Pit bulls can inflict fatal injuries, correct, sir? Correct. And in the case of 2006 Montgomery County, Texas, that was a fatal dog attack on an adult victim. That's correct. That was a pit bull, right? That's correct. And in 2006, DeKalb County, Georgia, that was a serious mauling. There was an allegation that it was a pit bull type dog. Yes, it was a pit bull type dog. In 2005, Huntington, West Virginia, that was a fatal dog attack on a 2-year-old. That's correct. Again, that was a pit bull type dog. Actually, the owner claimed it was a Staffordshire Terrier. A Staffordshire Terrier is defined as a pit bull under the ordinance, correct, sir? Then it is a pit bull type dog, yeah. In 2004, Nassau County, Florida, serious dog attack by pit bull terrier on an adult. That's correct. Now, you told us that pit bulls are no stronger than any other particular dog. Is that correct? In my observation. No, they're not. And as part of your example, you told us about weight pulling competitions, right? I use that as a generalized example that if you, in my observation, although I'm not a weight pull judge, if you had similar sized dogs that were similarly athletic, they would be pulling similar sized objects if they were so prone to do. So have you been to these weight pulling competitions? No, I'm not a weight pulling participant, no. But I've handled pulling dogs, pretty much most breeds out there, and don't find that any one breed pulls on the leash based on breed any more than a dog of similar size. I was going to ask you how many poodles you've seen pulling weighted sleds at these weight pulling competitions, but it sounds like you've never been to one, correct? I've not attended one, no. Would it surprise you to learn that pit bull type terrier dogs are a very popular breed when it comes to weight pulling? No, it would not. Would it surprise you to hear that poodles are not used in weight pulling? Poodles are actually used in an awful lot of things. Oh my god. Including retrieving competition and other physical activities. So it actually surprises me if a poodle's never tried. But that's what poodles are bred for, right? For retrieving? They're hunting dogs? Poodles are hunting dogs, yes. Poodles are used in hearing competition, something they weren't bred for. But dogs are bred for purposes, correct? Breeds have been established with general requirements, general desires behind their use, yes. So I have yet to see a dog, however, that is a single purpose animal. But they are more prone to doing one thing. For instance, your curly coated retriever is very good at water sports, I'm guessing. That particular one is yes. I have another one that can't swim to save its own life. And being a retriever, it retrieves, correct? Who does, yes. And the pit bull type dogs are bred to fight. Isn't that correct, sir? Some of the pit bulls were selected for the ability to fight other animals. Yes, that's true. Now, I'm going to take you back to the bite cards. You observed that, court. I'll tell you what, I don't know. Why don't we go ahead and stop for lunch? We're going to break for an hour and a half, starting at 1:25. How many more witnesses will the plaintiff call? One expert and two more animal control people. Okay, all right. We'll resume in an hour and a half. I only got 10 pages left. So. All right, back from lunch, the court. Let's continue with the cross-examination of Mr. Crosby. Thank you, Your Honor. The witness. I'm ready whenever you are. Super. Do you know how many Labrador retrievers live in the city of Aurora, Colorado, sir? Not for sure, ma'am. I know the information provided on the 2005 registration shows that 919 Labrador retrievers were, according to the city of Aurora, Colorado, registered, licensed. I'm sorry. And you noted earlier that there were slightly more Labrador retriever bites than pit bull bites, correct? Yes, according to the records, that's correct. So if there are 3 times more Labrador retrievers living in the city of Aurora, then a slightly higher number of bites would actually be disproportionate statistically, wouldn't it, sir? I'm not a statistician. I can't state statistically how it would fit within tolerances or what those tolerances would be. Kind of makes sense, sir, if you had 900 Labradors and 300 pit bulls and about the same number of bites, then the statistics are skewed, wouldn't they? I wouldn't be surprised to see more bites than Labradors than pit bulls, no. Oh my god. You had also testified earlier that all dogs give warning signs and that it's a myth that pit bulls never attack without warning. In my experience, that is correct. So you yourself have never seen a pit bull attack without a warning? No. Thus, you draw the conclusion that it becomes impossible for this to happen. I didn't say impossible. Impossible is a word that's very difficult to apply. I can't say it's impossible. You won't be abducted by aliens. But you were doing, I've never observed that. Sir, you were giving your expert opinion that all dogs give off signals before they attack, correct? In my experience, yes. And have you ever seen a pit bull wagging its tail and basically acting like a really happy dog right before it attacked? Personally, no. So again, because it's outside the realm of your experience, you can't say whether that does or does not happen? I can say that I never observed it. You were also talking at one point about the majority of bites in Canada coming from sled dogs, I believe. Do you recall that? Yes, that's what I was told by the director of Calgary, Alberta's Animal Control, Mr. Bill Bruce. And were you aware that the Ontario Court of Appeals has recently upheld a province-wide ban against pit bulls in Ontario? Yes, I am. This, despite the fact that it's primarily sled dogs that engage in fatal attacks there, correct, sir? Yes, which goes to the proof that legislation isn't always carried by the data. Now, you're testifying here as an expert, correct? Yes, ma'am. And as an expert, you had to submit a report on your findings, correct? Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, you submitted 2 reports, didn't you, sir? I submitted a report, and then a cover sheet was amended to that report that I did not write as I addressed in the deposition. Your first report was dated March 17, 2007, correct? I'm not sure, but I'll accept your word on that. And that did not have the cover sheet? That's correct. And the second report was not dated, but it came with the cover sheet, correct? Correct, which, as I said, I did not write. Who did you get that from? The cover sheet was provided me by Mr. Bowie. Did you get that by fax, email, or how did you get that? At this point, I honestly don't remember whether he emailed it to me or faxed it to me, possibly emailed it to me, but I was given it for the purpose of proper form as far as submission to the court. And you wrote not a single word of that cover sheet. Not the front page, nope. I was provided that cover sheet. And I believe you kind of characterized the difference in the two reports as reformatting. Is that correct? That's the difference, reformatting. I was given the format that the court will require it to be in so that it was properly worded and not worded, but properly constructed. I guess I'm wondering, sir, how in reformatting report 1 goes from being slightly over a half a page to being reformatted to slightly over 2 pages in report number 2. I don't have report number 1 in front of me, but the information contained is the same in both reports. There are no differences of fact. I'm going to ask the clerk to hand you report number 1 and report number 2. First of all, in report number 1, sir, do you cite to any specific or to any scientific reports, materials, or data? Do you name any reports, sir? I do not name any reports in the first one. No, I mentioned my investigations. So it's based solely on your experience, your investigations, correct? This report states that based on my investigations, I do not go into other supporting documents. No. If you could take a look at report number 2, I'll give you a moment to look that over. Oh, Lord mercy. And absent the cover page, which you did not write, in the report itself, do you cite to any scientific materials, publications, or data, sir? No. As you can see here, I have based this report and opinions on primarily my own observations and research. Okay, now report number 1 is written rather informally. Would you agree with that statement, sir? Yes, it was. And report number 2, you have formal delineations of areas that you're addressing, correct? Yes, I do. That does not appear in report number 1, does it, sir? Nope. It's actually a clearer, more properly formatted and explained report. When you say reformatted, you're actually expounding on report number 1 and kind of going beyond the ambit. I thought it was gambit. The ambit of report number 1. Would you agree with that, sir? I would agree. This is a force report I prepared for the federal court and was not sure in how much detail to go. Had I wanted to, I could have gone for many more pages, but I focused on the high points of what I would be addressing. So you didn't think to check with counsel before you tendered that report, sir, the first report? I didn't think I needed counsel's permission to issue the report that I was going to sign off on. Counsel didn't do the research. I did. But that's what you ended up sending both of these reports to, correct? Both of these reports were sent to Mr. Bowie. Both of these reports were sent to Mr. Bowie. He forwarded them on to counsel, which I believe initially was a different attorney. It was after you sent report number 1 that you received information from Mr. Bowie that you needed to reformat things? That I needed to reformat it, yeah. Expand your areas of concern, such as, I believe it talks about physical jaw structure in report number 2, correct? It talks about what I've observed. It talks about what I've observed in the pit bull dogs, including their jaws, yes. And you didn't specifically hone in on that in report number 1, do you, sir? I don't specifically mention that issue here. I mentioned that my investigation of numerous fatal attacks, but did not expound on the part of those investigations that dealt with the observations of the physical skulls and jaws of the dog. None of that is in report number 1, right? Report number 1? No, it's not. Report number 1 was not a report submitted to the court. Did you consult with Mr. Bowie before redoing report number 2, sir? As the format, yeah. As the information, nah. So under format, did you talk about expanding your headings and getting more in depth about what your research had shown? Yeah, I was asked to expand a bit on the information, but I originally sketched it out in the preliminary report number 1. Objection, Your Honor, relevancy. Overruled. Go ahead, finish your exhibit. The exhibit has not been talked about. It's on the exhibit list. I don't even have it in here. These are his reports, aren't they? Yes, Your Honor, they are. I realize they're not marked as exhibits, but she could ask him about what he wrote in his reports. Proper cross-examination. Objection overruled. Now, in report number 1, I believe it's the top paragraph. You say you've investigated a variety of fatal dog attacks. And those include pit bulls, correct, sir? Those include pit bull terriers, yes. And that kind of takes us back to your vitae in terms of pit bull type dogs can be dangerous, correct? Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And in your vitae, you only list level 5 or level 6 attacks. Is that correct? Actually, in my vitae, I do not list all the attacks I've consulted on, spoken to people, or worked on. If you'll notice on there, it says selected consulting duties. I understand that, sir, but Of the ones you've selected to put in your veto, you've chosen level 5 or level 6 attacks, correct? Yeah. And of those, we went over several of them. I believe 4 of them involve pit bull type dogs. Yeah. And of those selected cases, there are 12. So that means that 1 out of every 3 of those level 5 or level 6 attacks is a pit bull type dog, correct? Depends on the year. Actually, this year is a slightly different rate. Last year it was a different rate. Over time, it appears to be hovering around the 30% mark. The court. So just so the court is clear, what are level 5 and 6 attacks? Your Honor, they're a classification of dog bite that I read from before. That explains bites rather than, ooh, that's bad, or ooh, that's minor. Gives a standard of engagement of the dog. And I'm looking for my copy of it right now that can be compared across jurisdictions, across legal cases, across animal control agencies, and so forth, so that we can more appropriately quantify what one person thinks is a bad bite, the next person may not. And as I'm sure Your Honor is aware, different, even medical treatments or sutures is not consistent. Because if, for instance, a dog bites a person who is not a model of some kind in a non-visible area, the doctor may elect, based on their best judgment, to put a staple or two in. Where, frankly, if you have a small child with a facial bite of the same size, they may put a whole bunch of teeny tiny sutures in so the child bears no scars through its life. If you'd like, sir, this is a copy of the bite continuum. If you'd like the clerk to see that. Yes, I would like to see that. Are level 5 and 6 bites the more serious? Yes, sir. A level 5 bite, as defined, you'll see defined, there's multiple bites of serious nature. Multiple 4, and a level 6 is any bite that results in death of a human. Okay. So a level 6 bite is a fatality? Correct. And in your investigation of fatal dog attacks, I believe I heard you say that most of the fatal dog attacks were first-time bites. Is that correct, sir? The largest, I would have to say there are a substantial number that are first-time bites. However, when one looks into the backgrounds of these dogs, there are behaviors that should have been warned in those attacks, aggression focused on humans that may have resulted in a bite, aggression focused on other animals that may have been resulting in a human bite. So the dangerous dog laws that you're advocating don't really protect from first bite victims, do they, sir? Sure they do. Because you don't have to have a bite to a human to judge a dangerous dog. For instance, in my state, if a dog kills 2 or more domestic animals, it can be judged dangerous. If a dog charges in a means or mode of attack or threatening manner, and such charge, even though there is no contact, is witnessed by at least one person who gives written affidavit, that dog may be adjudged a dangerous dog. There is no pre-requirement for a human bite to judge a dog dangerous. It's honest behavior. And again, you're not certain if Aurora has a law like that, correct? I haven't looked for it. If it does, I think it's a good idea. Thank you, sir. Redirect. Miss Chan. Mr. Crosby, you testified before that you had looked at all of the Aurora dog bite data for the years 2003, 4, and 5. Is that correct? I looked at all the dog bite data I was provided. Okay, going on the assumption that you looked at what was provided and you testified already as to what you saw, are you able to, in your opinion, look at the data you were given on licensed dogs, or if they were licensed, to determine a population of how many breeds are in a city? I have no way to guess that. Dog licensing is erratic across the country. The best program I know is in Calgary, Alberta, where 95% of all animals are licensed. In the town I lived in, Jacksonville, they would have been lucky and thrilled to get 10%. So there's no way to judge how many of what or what the actual population is. And in your opinion, is there a correlation between licensed dogs and how many breeds of one type are in a city? I know of no such correlation, no ma'am. Thank you. Are you aware in your fatal attack, all of the stuff you have done that you testified to earlier, are you aware of, or do you know in your opinion from what you have seen and done personally, about how many breeds might be responsible for fatal attacks overall? Most all of them. For instance, I got a list this year so far includes, if I can find that piece of paper, so far the fatal attacks include Dobermans. I'm sorry. In 2007, they included. Let me interrupt you just one moment. The question was, in your opinion, how many breeds are responsible? I'm just asking you for a number. Many. Most of them. More than 10? They're not limited. There is 153 AKSA breeds now, and an incredible number of other registered breeds. Again, all I can say is I've seen everything from Pomeranians to Dachshunds to Presley Canarios and Wolf hybrids. I've never broken it down. to see exactly how many breeds were involved. Okay. Other than by specific year. Oh, I see. Okay, well, we're not going to go that far back. Okay, I have nothing further. Thank you. I have nothing further. Thank you. You may step down. Oh my God. This is the guy, Dr. Crosby. Dr. Crosby. I can say he's going to get eaten alive. Holy shit. I got to take a